Hello and welcome to the first press conference of the Veloce Pro Series in partnership with Motorsport Games and brought to you by Giorgio Piola. First of all, our thoughts go out to the thousands of health workers and families that are suffering through this terrible time. But if there are any positives to be taken from this situation, it is that Esports is providing some much needed relief and entertainment. And tomorrow's Pro Series debut from Veloce and Motorsport Games will be further proof of that. So let's get on with our drivers' virtual press conference, and who better to hand over to than our very own James Allen, who of course emceed some of the official FIA press conferences throughout the years. James, over to you.
Cheers, Hayden. Hi guys, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us from, I know, all over the world, and such a busy time, as Hayden was saying, with esports providing a lot of joy and distraction really for people in these tough times. Can I just kick it off by asking, what have you been doing, since we've been in lockdown? And Lando, how are you spending your time? Obviously, quite a bit of driving.
I mean, similar to kind of the rest of the guys here, to be honest. A lot of driving on my sim, a lot of streaming on Twitch, and trying to keep up with my training, I guess. I think that's one of the most important things is when we do start again, when that time comes, we're going to be going straight into the races. We're not going to have the little preseason practice like we do every year. So physically, just jumping back in the car after, such a long break, longer than the winter break, or probably going to be longer than a winter break, then it's going to be not the easiest to jump back into a Formula One car after such a long time. So those three things: streaming, playing on my sim, training, and eating. Those are actually the four things I've been doing.
So, and Nicholas, from your point of view, obviously, I guess you've got to stay sharp, and being able to drive these things all the time is, unlike a lot of other athletes, they're kind of confined to their houses. They can't throw a javelin or go and play an 11-a-side football match, but you can do what your job is, pretty much day in, day out, stay sharp, right?
Yeah, definitely. Quite fortunate to have a little home sim setup like this. So, during this off period here, it really is just about keeping sharp, kind of like Lando summed it up. So for sure, fitting in a lot of physical training. Fortunate that I do have a little home gym, so I don't really have to leave my house for that. Could keep self-isolating. But then, a little home sim setup, getting into this e-racing kind of for the first time. For me, it's all a whole new world, trying to become a PC expert as well to make sure all my settings are proper. Gotta compete with Lando here as a professional over there, right? So, but no, it's definitely really cool. I mean, the first races I did the other week, really enjoyed them, much more fun than I thought. So yeah, definitely keen to keep participating in more of them.
And James, you're a top esports racer, so obviously you've got all these real racing drivers coming into your world. How are you going to keep them behind you? How are you going to stay on the top of the greasy ladder?
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, to start with, we have the advantage, but every week as it goes on, they're getting closer and closer. Me and Stoffel had a really good battle last week in the race.
I nearly kept him behind. I just spun on the last lap.
But the fact he's doing that with, say, not that expensive equipment is really good. And for me, myself, I'm at home a lot anyway, training for various events. So not too much has changed. But yeah, like the guys, I'm staying fit. I'm in GT3 this year. The first two rounds have been cancelled, unfortunately. So it is affecting me as well. But it's good. The more sim racing events there are, the better, in my opinion. So.
Amen to that. Well, let's throw it open to the floor. We've got John Noble here, the chief Formula One writer at motorsport.com. John?
Hi, chaps. I've watched last weekend's action. I've followed esports over the past few years and stuff. But are you all surprised by just how there's been? I mean, we saw, more than 500,000 for not the Bahrain Grand Prix and the virtual Grand Prix. Just how quickly fans have taken.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I was cutting out a little
bit. A bit towards the end, but I think I understood.
Yeah, got the gist of it.
One, the competitions have been set up well, but then two, the drivers have kind of. There's a lot of WhatsApp groups and so on where everyone's talking and chatting and trying to set these things up. So I think that's helped, but at the same time, for pretty much everyone, including you guys, there's not a lot you can do apart from commentate on these things and share these things around. There's no other stories that you can really come up with and talk about. So I think everyone's kind of forced into sharing and looking at the esports thing because that's the only thing that can really go on right now. But at the same time, I think it's grown massively only in these last 2 weeks. And I think it's only going to continue to grow, and more people are going to get online. There's more records going to be broken in terms of how many people are on online on different programs and games and so on. So no, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I think it's awesome to see how quickly everything's grown just in the last 2 weeks because no one can really do anything else.
Yeah, no, I agree with Lando, and I think I've been doing a lot of sim racing when I was a lot younger, and there's basically been almost like a 10-year gap or something, or 8-year gap where I didn't really do that much. So in the last week I kind of got all the equipment again, and it's pretty amazing to see how much sim racing and esports in general have really evolved in those couple of years. Only just looking at the equipment, like kind of all the drivers now, they kind of have a proper simulator setup at home. And how those things have changed, and then with the whole streaming as well, it's really taken on a different level.
Cool. We've got Luke Smith here from Autosport. Luke, take it away.
Thanks, James. Hi, guys. Stoffel and Nicholas, you said you're obviously relative newcomers coming back into esports and sim racing. I was just wondering how difficult you found it to get up to speed. Have you been surprised by how easy it's maybe been to get up to speed? And for Lando and James, how impressed have you been by the newcomers to sim racing and how quickly they've got on track with you guys?
Nicholas, go first.
Yep. So far I've only really competed in the F1 game, which fortunately you could make it quite easy or quite hard depending on what assist you want to do. But no, I did, to be honest, spend quite a few hours practicing just not to look silly come the race event, and it paid off. It was not too bad. But I'm having my first goes on iRacing. Seem to struggle a bit more on that, but definitely I think I could see why a lot of the guys that do this professionally, and a guy like Lando who obviously does this quite a lot as well, they are so quick in it, because it's obviously you apply a lot of the same skills like in real life driving in terms of how you want to get a fast lap time, but it is obviously not, let's say, 100% the same thing, and there's little kind of intricacies and things that you have to kind of figure out with the sim racing itself. So it's definitely very, very difficult, and still I think I could spend all the rest of the hours that I'm going to be self-isolating in this break, and I probably still won't get to the level of these guys. But if it's keeping me sharp and having good fun in the process, then I'm all up for it.
Stoffel?
Like I said before, I used to do a lot of sim racing, kind of years ago, and I was actually pretty decent back then. It's kind of like a reset button almost. It's been not that easy to get back up to speed. I think some games, or there's different platforms that we've been playing on, and some of them have done better than other ones. I don't know exactly why. I think it's physics, car models, the way the things work with the steering, how they interact with the brake pedal. So some games I'm getting on better than other ones. But it's still a challenge to get up there. It requires a lot of practice. It requires kind of learning the little tricks of the games, I would say, to really get the last bit of lap time out of it.
And James?
Yeah, we shouldn't be surprised. These are like the top drivers in the world. If they put the hours in, they're going to be quick. I think everyone would have assumed that, and that's the case. What I was going to say is, I think real drivers adapt to, say, iRacing or R-Factor a bit better because they're more realistic. Whereas if you put them on the F1 game, it is more like a game. So if you don't have the hours behind you, you don't know all the tricks and tips, you're not going to be at the front. So, for example, I expect all of these guys tomorrow to be at the front because this iRacing is quite realistic. The physics aren't, near real life, despite the car. The car is a bit of a handful, but. It's worth for people like me saying thank you to all the drivers that are getting involved, because it puts more eyeballs on the industry in general. And, if I'm winning and no one's watching, it's not pointless, but it's better to have eyeballs on it. So with Lando, with all of you to get involved is great. So, from me and I think every other sim racer in the industry, it's like a big thank you, really.
Finally, Lando.
What was the question?
A long time ago. Remind us, Luke.
How impressed have you been? How quickly the likes of Stoffel and Nicholas have been able to get up to speed, and other like real life racing drivers have got on board?
I think it's been. It's hard to say. I mean, I spend a lot of hours, and I have spent a lot of hours on these games, and I mean mainly iRacing more than anything. And like they all said, there is little tips and tricks you got to know for all of them. More so, like James said, for F1 more than anything. There's a lot more kind of little, not secrets, but things you have to know about and learn about than others. So for new people coming in, those things can easily be 1-2 tenths a lap, and that's quite a lot of lap time come the end of just setting a normal lap time. So no, it's been fun, it's been impressive, and it's been a pleasure to race with so many drivers. Where I even I did another race last night, and when you get all of these pro drivers on, once they do get the hours in and the practice in, I would say still a long way ahead in terms of hours spent on my simulator, especially compared to people like Stoff who only got a sim last week. Then there's big differences, and I know a lot more of the little things that they don't. But once they start to learn these things, they start to get up to speed. Then it becomes a bit more interesting. The competition gets tougher and tougher. The field gets closer, and you start to see the gaps, closing down to half a tenth, quarter of a tenth, and you get sometimes 5-10 drivers within a couple of tenths. So then it makes it a lot more interesting and a lot more like real life, basically. So no, it's been like I said, a pleasure to race with everyone, and I'm sure it's only going to get better the more hours everyone gets in within the next couple of months.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for that. What's unique about this press conference is we've got fan questions as well. So I'm going to hand it back over to Hayden to put those to you. But to everyone watching this, please remember, stay home, save lives. This is a very tough situation we're in, but enjoy the best in the world racing in the Veloce Pro Series with Motorsport Games. And I'll hand it back now to Hayden. Thanks.
Thank you very much, James. So we've been asking our fans around the world questions on Instagram and Twitter, what they would like to ask you. So we'll start with you, Nicholas. In Oz, George was calling you Nicky, and they want to know, what do you call George?
Georgie. No, no, just George. No. You can't really give him a nickname. It's just George, yeah.
Just George.
What the hell?
Someone's phone's going.
I was watching a video.
Stop, you need to pay attention. Moving over to James now. Which of the competitors, out of all that you've seen announced so far, do you fear the most, being the sim racer out of the four?
Well, Jimmy Broadbent, I lost to him in a 1v1 on iRacing, so it'd be silly for me not to say him. I mean, Lando puts a lot of hours in, doesn't he, on iRacing? So I'd say Lando.
I would love to see my hours spent on iRacing. I don't think you can see it, but I don't know if I should be proud of it or embarrassed.
Yeah, it's probably good you can't see it.
Who's got the highest I rating here? Mine's 4.2k.
Yeah, mine's 5. I was up to 7, but I'm back down to 5. I've done a lot of crashing lately.
I don't even know what iRating is, so
yeah. I just downloaded it yesterday.
Nah, I'd probably say Lando.
Lando. Okay. Moving on to the next one. This is for you, Lando. This is from Marco Telepski. What is your pre-race routine, and also how would it differ from real racing, of course, to sim racing?
What's my pre-race routine for sim racing?
Like what would be your normal pre-race routine, but how would that differ from
when it gets to sim racing?
Yeah.
So my pre-race routine, I don't really have anything like too specific. I know you get a lot of drivers who do certain things, but I'm fairly relaxed with what I do. I don't have anything specifically. I think always have to go to the toilet before you race. That's rule number 1. and normally I have to try and beat Carlos to the bathroom. Number 2 is I always fist pump all of my mechanics on the grid and my engineers before I get in the car. But then that's about it. I there's like nothing where I need to listen to a certain song or wear certain pants or get in the car from either or a specific side. I'm pretty easy. I don't have anything, or nothing's ever worked for me. Like nothing's ever been better or worse with what I've done. But like fist pumping all the mechanics, I know is something good for myself. Like is cool, but then at the same time it's good for them. And then on sim racing, I can't really fist pump anyone.
Should probably go to the toilet though, because you'll have to clean up the seat. You don't have someone else to do that for you.
Yeah. I don't have anything. I mean, I just have to set up all of my stuff. That's the main thing. Make sure the game doesn't crash on me halfway through.
How's that been going so far for you?
Not great. And the first thing I have to do is when I get so nervous in sim racing for some reason. Like I get more nervous than I do.
That's good to know.
I get more nervous than I do in like an actual qualifying session. I don't know if it's because you don't have the adrenaline of actually driving the car, so you kind of forget about the nerves. But in sim racing, you just sat in the seat. It's a bit more peaceful and quiet, and you're literally just driving. So you think about a few more things. So I need to try and like calm myself down as much as possible. I start shaking and getting all nervous, and I always ruin my qualifying laps because I get so nervous. So my only other thing is to put my my Twitch chat into sub-only mode so they can't talk, otherwise I get too distracted by trying to answer their questions. But that's about it.
Thank you very much, Lando. Finally, moving on to you, Stoffel. This is from Oliver number 1. What about virtual driving do you enjoy the most?
I guess it's a competition with the other drivers, to be honest. Yeah, I think especially in times like this where we can't really have any real life competition on track, it's still a good way to keep the mind fresh, let's say. Yeah, it's like Lando said, when all of us put in the hours, it almost feel like we're at the real track, to fight for the last couple of tenths, to perfect your driving style. Sometimes very frustrating as well when you can't figure it out. But yeah, I guess it's the competition that is most exciting about it.
Thank you very much. That's all from me. Are there any other questions from the floor?
I'll throw a quick. Do you sense there's a wider social significance to this boom in esports? It's making people stay at home. It's keeping people entertained amid a difficult time. Do you sense there's something bigger about?
I would say so. I think it's got to the point now where it's big enough that people, tune into our streams. I think, Nicholas, have you started streaming yet? I told you not to.
Yeah. So for guys who didn't see my little Instagram poll, Lando voted no. This guy here, and my teammate George voted no. It's hurt. That hurt right here.
Yeah, like the rest of us all stream. So you're getting all these viewers clicking in, and most of them are most likely to be at home. But even when you're driving, they're saying that we are making for entertainment, and they enjoy watching all of us racing each other. And so if it does help, just those couple people or thousands of people stay at home and enjoy spending that time at home a bit more, then I think it's not just entertainment for us racing and like showing us race, but it's also got that wider significance, like you said, of keeping people at home and trying to make them a bit happier after spending so long probably in the house or doing not the things that they want to.
Thank you very much for watching this press conference, and don't forget to tune in to the Pro Series, which will kick off at 6 p.m. UK time. Brought to you by Veloce and Motorsports Games in partnership with Giorgio Piola. And once again, before we go, our thoughts are with the thousands of health workers and, of course, those families that have been affected during this very tough time. And don't forget to keep yourself safe and stay indoors. Thank you all for watching and enjoy the race.